The deep sea is not just a place, it's an entity. It imposes itself on every fiber of your being. And its first weapon against the human psyche is the primal fear of the unknown. Up here, on the surface, we navigate a world we largely understand. There are trees, cities, other people. Even in the deepest wilderness, there's a sense of scale, of a comprehensible ecosystem. But down there, miles beneath the waves, beyond the reach of sunlight, lies a vast, unexplored realm. A place where 95% of life remains undiscovered. This isn't just unknown, it's unknowable to our surface-dwelling minds. This primal fear of the unknown isn't just about what might be lurking in the crushing darkness outside your viewport. It's about the overwhelming realization of your own insignificance. You are a tiny, fragile speck of humanity, encased in a metal shell, suspended in an ocean volume so immense it dwarfs anything you can comprehend. The sheer scale of the abyss amplifies feelings of vulnerability to an almost unbearable degree. Every creak of the hull, every tremor, every strange sound becomes a potential harbinger of doom. Is it just the subsettling? Or is it something else? Something out there? When the familiar world vanishes, so too can our anchor to reality. This is where the truly unsettling aspects begin to emerge. Lack of sensory input, combined with extreme pressure, can begin to play tricks on the mind. We're talking about hallucinations and delusions. Imagine days turning into weeks, weeks into months, without seeing a single natural color, without feeling the sun on your skin, without the rush of fresh air. Your senses become starved. The brain, desperate for stimulation, begins to create its own. Early deep-sea divers and submariners often reported the horrors, vivid, terrifying hallucinations. They weren't just seeing things, their minds were actively generating them in the absence of external stimuli. This isn't just imagination running wild. It's a documented psychological phenomenon. The pressure itself can also play a role. High-pressure nervous syndrome, or HPNS, is a well-known risk for saturation divers, inducing tremors, nausea, and cognitive dysfunction. But beyond the physiological effects, the psychological impact is profound. The mind, under such duress, can begin to construct alternate realities. Shadows twist into monstrous forms. Distant mechanical sounds become whispers, then voices. The crushing weight of the ocean outside begins to feel like a tangible presence, pressing not just on the hull but directly on your skull, squeezing the sanity from your mind. And then there's the internal battle. The most fundamental drive within every living being is to survive. But in deep-sea isolation, this instinct often collides with a creeping mental decay. The struggle to maintain focus, to perform critical tasks, to even distinguish reality from hallucination, becomes a daily, exhausting war. You know what you need to do to stay alive: monitor systems, conserve resources, maintain communications. But the environment is actively working against your ability to do any of it. Your internal clock is shattered, your sleep cycles are disrupted, your ability to reason logically is compromised. The drive to survive is there, raw and primal, but the tools your mind needs to execute that drive are slowly, inexorably, being dulled, eroded, and ultimately threatened by the very environment you inhabit. It's a slow unraveling, an internal shipwreck, far more insidious than any external catastrophe. The ocean's abyss is a hostile, alien world. But the true horror of deep-sea isolation isn't just what's outside the viewport. It's what happens inside the hull. And inside the human skull, the human mind is built on a foundation of stimuli: the feel of wind, the smell of rain, the sight of a distant horizon, the simple rhythm of dawn and dusk. These are not luxuries, they are a psychological necessity. They are the anchors that tether our sanity to the physical world. In a deep-sea habitat or a submersible, these anchors are systematically severed. There is no day or night, there is only the clock. This is temporal dislocation. Your body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, begins to drift, then shatters. Sleep becomes a chaotic, fragmented ordeal, punctuated by nightmares. Wakefulness is a thick fog of fatigue and confusion. You can no longer trust your own sense of time. Has it been hours? Or days? The constant, unchanging environment of recycled air, artificial light, and the omnipresent hum of machinery creates a sensory vacuum. And the mind abhors a vacuum. It will begin to fill the void. Auditory hallucinations are common. You hear your name whispered in the ventilation. You hear a tapping on the hull, a rhythmic, insistent sound that the sonar says isn't there. You see movement in the corner of your eye, a shadow that detaches itself from the wall and vanishes. This isn't just cabin fever. This is the sound of your own mind beginning to decompose. But perhaps the most insidious toxin is the social one. We think of isolation as being alone. But deep-sea missions often involve small crews, trapped together in a space no bigger than a small RV for months on end. This is forced proximity. Every minor personal habit, every quirk, every repeated phrase becomes an intolerable aggression. The way a crewmate breathes, the sound they make when they drink. These tiny details are magnified by the confinement until they swell into sources of profound, almost homicidal, rage. Trust erodes. Paranoia festers. You are trapped, miles beneath the surface, with people you are beginning to truly, deeply hate. People who are also your only lifeline. This social breakdown is a well-documented phenomenon in all isolated environments, from Antarctic bases to space missions. But in the deep sea, the stakes are so much higher. In Antarctica, you can, in theory, walk outside. In space, you can see the stars. Down here, there is no escape. There is only the module, the pressure, and the other. This is not hypothetical, is not science fiction. The history of deep-sea exploration is written in a language of near misses, psychological endurance, and absolute crushing terror. Consider the crews of World War II submarines. They were the first large-scale pioneers of long-term deep-sea isolation. They lived in diesel-fumed, sweat-soaked steel tubes, hunted by surface ships. Their reality was a constant state of dread, punctuated by the sheer visceral terror of the sonar ping, the sound of their tomb being located. They weren't just fighting an enemy, they were fighting the onset of madness, the urge to scream, the crushing claustrophobia of knowing that at any second, a single explosion could rupture the hull and instantly annihilate them. But the true masters of deep-sea isolation are the saturation divers. To work at extreme depths, these divers must live for weeks, even months, in pressurized chambers. Their bodies are saturated with a helium-oxygen mix to prevent decompression sickness. They live in a tiny, cramped world, their voices distorted by the helium into high-pitched, unnatural squeaks. Okay, pressure, holding steady. 1. Secure. They live on the very knife edge of human tolerance. The pressure outside is so immense that the smallest mistake, the tiniest structural failure, doesn't just mean death, it means oblivion. On November 5, 1983, 5 divers were living in a pressurized chamber aboard the Byford Dolphin oil rig. It was a routine operation. 4 divers were in the chamber, with 2 of them preparing to transfer to the diving bell. The system consisted of the chamber, a trunk, and the diving bell. A procedure was initiated before the diving bell had been sealed. A clamp was opened prematurely. The chamber, pressurized to 9 atmospheres, was instantly connected to the 1 atmosphere pressure of the outside world. The result was not an explosion. It was an implosion. It was the most violent decompression in human history. The 4 divers inside the chamber were instantly, horrifically killed. The pressure differential was so massive, so immediate, that their bodies were, in the most literal sense, destroyed. A 5th diver, one of the tenders outside the chamber, was also killed. It was over in a fraction of a second. This is the reality that underpins the psychology of deep-sea isolation. This is the horror that every diver, every submariner, every explorer knows is waiting, just one mistake, one faulty weld, one moment of mental fatigue away. It's not just the fear that the environment will kill you. It's the knowledge that the pressure to be perfect, to never make a mistake, is as constant and as crushing as the ocean itself. And in an environment that is actively designed to break your mind, to make you tired, confused, and paranoid, a single mistake is inevitable. The Byford Dolphin tragedy is a stark, physical reminder of the stakes. It is the physics of the abyss made manifest. But it is an outlier, an instantaneous, mechanical failure. The true, lingering horror is the slow failure, the failure of the mind. There is a limit to human endurance. A point where the mind, stretched by isolation, distorted by pressure, and starved of stimuli, finally snaps. This isn't a gradual decline, it's a rupture. It's the moment the internal dam breaks, and the full, crushing weight of the abyss floods the psyche. This is derealization, the overwhelming, unshakable conviction that nothing is real. The habitat, the mission, the crewmates, even your own hands, they all become a fabrication. A complex, pointless stage play. The only thing that feels real is the vast, intelligent, waiting blackness outside the hull. This is followed by depersonalization. The self begins to dissolve. Your thoughts don't feel like your own. Your voice, when you speak, sounds alien, distant. You are no longer a person. You are a consciousness trapped in a failing machine of meat, encased in a failing machine of metal. The you that existed on the surface has been hollowed out, scoured away by the pressure and the solitude. Psychosis in this environment is the ultimate terror. Why? Because you are still responsible for the complex, life-sustaining machinery. The hallucination isn't just a monster in the dark. It's a voice telling you that the air scrubber is poisoning you. It's a sudden, absolute certainty that your crewmate is an imposter, a thing wearing their skin. It's the unshakable impulse to do the one thing that will end the pressure, the one final catastrophic act. In the deep sea, a psychotic break isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a death sentence for everyone. The line between survival instinct and mental decay is not just blurred, it's erased. The mind, in its final attempt to escape the unescapable, chooses oblivion. This leads us to the final, most unsettling question. Why do we go there at all? What draws us down into a realm that seems so perfectly engineered to destroy us? There's a well-known psychological phenomenon, l'appel du vide, the call of the void. It's the sudden, inexplicable urge to jump when standing at a great height. It's not a suicidal impulse, researchers say, but an affirmation of the will to live. A brief, terrifying flirtation with non-existence that makes you appreciate existence. But in the deep sea, the call is different. It's not a fleeting urge. It's a constant, seductive whisper. The abyss doesn't just threaten you, it invites you. In that profound, absolute silence, with the weight of miles of water pressing in, the mind can interpret this pressure not as a threat, but as an embrace. A final, perfect, all-consuming peace. The isolation becomes a kind of purity. The darkness becomes a comfort. The idea of surfacing, of returning to the chaotic, loud, bright world becomes the real source of anxiety. The abyss offers an end to the struggle, an end to the fear, the paranoia, the failing mind. All you have to do is let go. Yeah. The human mind is a surface-dwelling creature. It evolved to the rhythm of the sun and the horizon. We can build machines to withstand the pressure of the deep, but we have yet to build a mind that can. We call it exploration, but in the end, the deep sea is a mirror. And when we stare into that crushing, alien darkness, what stares back is not a monster. It is our own, terrifying, fragile reflection, stripped bare. And it is desperate to come home, or to be swallowed completely.